All right, so we're going to talk about hacking Microsoft Exchange. So what are we going to get into? Hold on. Wrong slide deck. This is from my lunch and learn. So my lunch and learn is different from my ColaSEC.
Do we get the raunchier version?
Yes. I am doing a presentation at work on the same exact topic. I like to double up topics because why the heck not? I guess I do. I think we went into a little more technical stuff than I did with the lunch and learn. We'll find out.
Okay.
We will find out. All right. So we'll dive into what is Microsoft Exchange a little bit, what happened, the fallout, the response, the timeline, questions remain. Potentially, we already covered the news. That's what I'm telling you. So some of these are a little bit different. Anyways, I will be fully transparent. Did not, unlike some other stuff I've talked about, this was not an issue for me at work. So if anybody has insights or wants to correct me on stuff, totally get. Yeah, shut up. I don't know what to tell you guys about the all material is extremely confidential because I know people go out and take these slides, and this is the template we're told to use. It was sent to marketing to say, hey, are you cool with me using these slides at ColaSEC? They said, cool. And I was like, sweet. So, everyone gets a crack out of that. I take these to conferences all the time. Yes, it's a thing. There are slides that we do have internal that are not meant to be shared. So I think that's what that's there for, instead of having
So
two
basically,
different.
your data classification policy is broken.
What data classification?
Exactly.
So what is Microsoft Exchange? It's essentially email. Some setups have their Exchange server available to the internet for external users to use. A lot of people will use Office 365, so that then you don't have to have external because it's Office 365 is in the cloud. It's
Hang on.
out there.
Kill and restart your presentation. Remember, it does this weird thing where oh, maybe it's fixed now. Okay, never mind. Or listen to me.
Yeah, every couple of slides, it was like having a strunk.
Oh, was it?
Like it's overlaying itself.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the porn tab you have open.
No, that's the porn tab. That's the Twitch tab. I don't know. So here's the thing: is the I don't understand this. Gmail, so the Google Meet has my screen as one screen, as two, but then my screen for the PowerPoint has it as three. So it's like, what the hell?
Technology is hard, man.
Did I get this right?
The structural integrity of my taco has failed.
Well, it actually gave me a preview of it too. So there's the spaghetti.
There we go. I'm concerned about your references to Exchange 2003.
This is look. I don't create a lot of my own memes. They're just ripped from Google Images. All right, and looking for Microsoft Exchange memes. So 10% of my week is spent looking for memes to put into presentations for both at work and like I said, I try to double up here. So sometimes you just get what you get, man.
Nice. I'll take it.
Every once in a while, I'll create my own meme when I have an idea for it, but other times I didn't have like a great. It's like sometimes you just don't. How do you make Exchange a meme, right? And some people, I get into some really racist memes, by the way, and I'm like, I can never use these. I don't use political memes because I don't want to piss off either side. So you start limiting with the current state of things and how just about any word can be turned into something political.
Yeah, but spaghetti is always cool.
Tim, when you said that you spend 90-10 of your time on memes, I just assumed that 90% was memes.
I agree.
No, 10%.
100%. I spend 10% of my work working, and the other 90%.
That's not possible. No, 50% of my week is usually meetings, if not more. So that's why I go for the 10% there. The rest of the time is memes and building out slides for presentation. All right, we have diverged. So for anyone that didn't know what Microsoft Exchange is, when it was really old in 2003, it was out there a lot more, and you can see people turned it into spaghetti, connecting to all sorts of stuff, which is why this hack. A lot of people were like, "We have Microsoft Exchange available to the internet." Not a good thing. So what happened?
Wait. Exchange available to the internet? In order for Exchange to work, it has to be available to the internet. It's an email server.
Not if yeah, but well, what I'm saying is that like Office 365, if people have switched to Office 365 and forgot to turn off their Exchange server, I mean,
gotcha. Yes.
You see what I'm saying? Is that like there were probably some legacy things out there that people are like, oh crap.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
Well, Microsoft isn't going to tell you need to go turn off, because we still have internal servers as well as Office 365, but Microsoft isn't going to tell you to go turn them off, or because they still need to talk to Office 365. But we block the hell out of the firewall just so that our internal servers can only talk to 365 and nothing else.
There's also there are some compliance reasons that you would have both on-prem and in the cloud that Microsoft is alleviating, but there are a lot of hybrid situations where you still have to have a server on-premise in addition to having M365 or whatever they're calling it these days.
It's amazing how much we're fully migrated to Office 365 means, except for these 11 mailboxes that we had to keep on-prem.
Yeah. There's always the exceptions that we never planned for.
Yeah, so I'm going to end this show real quick. So if one of my kids' friends rings the doorbell again, I can mute my microphone, and because the dog was just barking like crazy.
Tim, it's been 13 months. We're used to this.
Yeah,
I'm sure you are.
It's all good.
Still, I am an audio person, former podcaster, and it bothers me when I hear background stuff. So I apologize.
You can't see it, but there's a broom right behind his desk. He's like hitting the ceiling for the upstairs neighbor, like, shut up.
All right, so we've digressed. Yes, so good discourse too, though, right? It's why is Microsoft out there? Why is Microsoft Exchange out there? Because it is. This is a very simplified version of Microsoft Exchange set up for many years ago, like almost 2 decades ago. Nowadays, it's probably even more complicated than this. But for people that aren't familiar with Microsoft Exchange, just wanted to call that out very quickly. So back to what happened. March 2nd, Microsoft released 4 patches to fix vulnerabilities in Exchange. They were out of band patches. So Microsoft usually releases on the second Tuesday of every month. The reason was that this vulnerability had been exploited since January 6th. So the vulnerabilities are easy to use. They're unauthenticated. I'm going to rant at some point about the Wall Street Journal. Maybe now, maybe later. But there's a server-side request forgery. Server is tricked into running commands that it should never have been permitted to run, such as authenticating as the Exchange server itself. Then there's remote code execution, run code under the system account on a target Exchange server. And then remote code execution, another one that allows an attacker to write a file to any part of the server. So I don't know if anybody's a big Wall Street Journal fan, but I did recently read one where they talked about how China had used OSINT to get admin passwords into Exchange servers, and they called an exclusive story. And I'm like, if you have the Exchange server's admin account already, you don't need any of these vulnerabilities. You have access to everything you need to have access to. So sorry, side rant. But yeah, so these are unauthenticated vulnerabilities. So the attackers would exploit the vulnerabilities to gain initial access, and then they deploy web shells to software, which is essentially just software backdoors that allow attackers to steal data and perform other actions. So we go back to the Ubiquity breach. most attackers nowadays, they're not going to leave one backdoor in. There's going to be multiple in there. SolarWinds, same thing, right? There were 10 different threat actors in there dropping their shells all over the place, trying to hide them in all sorts of different areas. So that's just a thing. So what's a web shell for people that don't know? It's something similar to like go to assist, or it's essentially like an RDP into the remote desktop session into the box using some sort of software that we often call RATs or remote access tools. Um, they're hidden from initial. These are hidden from initial compromise, so they have their way in, and so even if they go patch, the web shells are still active and they're still able to access these web shells. In this case, for this particular one, for the Microsoft Exchange chat, they've named it Chopper. So a Chopper web shell, it's a lightweight one-line script that uses PowerShell. The specific PowerShell command is set-oab virtual directory commandlet. And it's been this specific one has been observed in attack since 2003. So if you're in a SOC, maybe look for that. Anybody running that kind of PowerShell command. It's installed via the unifying message module, which allows the storage of voicemail and faxes along with email, calendar, and contacts in user mailboxes.
By the way, Tim, your slides are all borked up again.
Are they? How is that happening?
I have no idea, but it's fantastic.
That is in Google Meets too. Yeah, hold on. Let's.
Yeah, I don't know if you maybe just need to get out of presentation mode, maybe. If you
I
just
mean,
keep it in like.
it's me hard. Okay, here's what we did. Let me try to stop presenting one more time, and then we will present. Because what I've done is I haven't started with the presentation up. So let's try that.
Tim, what browser are you using?
I'm in Firefox.
Oh God.
That's your problem.
Can we submit this as a bug?
Yeah.
Sure.
Jeff has the
let me-
same problem.
let
Firefox.
me
Google
know if
Meet
it gets.
that has a
No,
problem.
I have one more thing I could try. I'm also on a Mac. Come on, Mac is not perfect.
No,
If they get
it
both
truly
perfect,
is.
let me
It's
know.
Firefox. No, I'm
I
not
have no
joking.
script on too, so
Yeah, Jeff has the same problem when he was presenting a month or two ago.
okay.
Yep.
Well,
if you switch to Chrome or Chromium or Edge or Safari, I think it
Okay.
all works fine. But not
Opera.
Firefox.
let's see if this goes. Just go ahead and interrupt me if it's worked again. I have one more thing to try, and then I'll switch to Chrome. Because I have to log into Chrome if I'm gonna switch over there, which is a whole thing.
As long as you show us your password.
I have multi-factor on it, so good luck.
Oh.
That's okay. I'll just bug the shit out of you all night long. I'll write a script.
Okay, I'm gonna be asleep.
Trolling Tim is boring.
I love you guys. All right, let's see. Next slide. Oh, I borked it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. All right, one more thing. The first thing. Let's try this. Hold on. A window. All right, moment of truth here.
Is this Firefox ESR?
Oh, it's looking good. All right.
Yeah.
So who is the threat actor? This is they've named China as the threat actor for this. What they do is they launch attacks from U.S. hosts. They are now. My question is, why are they? Yeah, they are targeting like infectious disease research, law firms, higher education, defense contractors, policy think tanks, and NGOs. So this is pretty typical nation state threat intelligence gathering. And you can think even about the SolarWinds stuff. It sounds like that there was some kind of email component there. So if you haven't secured your email, maybe go do that. Turn on multi-factor. Also, don't have an Exchange server out on the internet. what they'll do is then gain access, exfiltrate data via file sharing sites like Mega, which I don't know if anybody's heard of Mega before. That was new for me. And of course, the objective for attacking a Microsoft Exchange server is stealing emails. Shock, not shock. So from Ars Technica, they were able to, they kind of went after, and this is kind of a little bit of a repeat, but a little bit different. Local governments, academic institutions, non-governmental organizations, and business entities in a range of industries, including agricultural, biotechnology, aerospace, defense, legal services, power utilities, that almost went wrong, and pharmaceuticals.
So all of them, everyone.
That's not all of them. That is not all the industries. That's not the sports industry.
Which one do they not include?
Not,
including but not limited
industries. Yeah. yeah, I didn't have that. So some of the fallout, right? This is a custom meme, by the way, because I couldn't find any good Microsoft Exchange memes. There were 30,000 Exchange servers. Some were saying it's much higher. I think I've seen numbers at 120,000. And once criminals kind of got wind of this, they put their own backdoors on servers. I am confusing the SolarWinds from this one. Reports of up to 8 backdoors on the server. So you know how I was talking about 10 different threat actors? Yeah, that happened on this one. There are reports of up to 10 APT hacking groups according to ESET, which we'll get into some of those names later. I won't get into it now. Once the criminals got wind of this, there's something called Deercry. Is a new set of ransomware that they're deploying that uses these vulnerabilities, according to Palo Alto Networks Unit 42. It encrypts files using the AS256 and RSA 2048 and modifies the file headers with Deercry. And then they put the ransom note on the victim's desktop. The Black Kingdom Gang.
Is that the ransom note
group
right there?
Yeah, that'd be awesome if it was.
One Bitcoin equals how many cat treats? I wonder.
Right. Right.
700 billion.
Yeah.
So, but the initial compromise required that the Exchange server have OWA internet facing, right?
Mm-hmm.
OWA in one of the administrative consoles, which wasn't necessarily required for the Exchange
like the
server.
ECP.
Right.
Yeah, which again, you shouldn't. If you're in Office 365, you shouldn't have OWA on premise at all.
Right, but if you hadn't
probably
been in
left
Office
it on
until very recently, you had it online.
Right.
Yeah.
Or so some of my internal folks were saying that they were, especially in March, were being bombarded with, customer tickets and everything, and all Microsoft customers got emails like, "Oh my God, this is bad. Submit tickets. We'll help you fix it." And so many of them were like running unsupported versions of Exchange on premise. They hadn't even migrated to Office 365 yet, and they're running unsupported versions, so they couldn't run the patches that Microsoft released to be able to fix the system. So that's why like it kept snowballing. Like, okay, here's the KBs, install them. Well, crap, those don't apply to all these old versions we don't support anymore. It's kind of like back in the day when, was it Spectre Meltdown or one of those where they were like, holy God, we need to patch XP as well because people are still running it. Even though we don't support it, we're still going to patch it. So that's why they came out with a lot of extra like PowerShell patches and like workarounds and stuff because there's so many customers still running unsupported versions of Exchange.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I think there was one unsupported version that they went ahead and patched with this one. So.
Yeah.
So the Black Kingdom gang, they left like a ransom note claiming to encrypt files. God, I thought that's what I was wondering. Okay. And I thought I grabbed someone's Twitter. But not actually. But they were not actually encrypting files until they figured out their mistake. Oh, okay, this is what it was. Yeah, Go See the Dog on Twitter had like a honeypot up, and like he was like, I moved my installation files to another folder not named C. So when they went and encrypted that folder, the or he moved like system files or something. Yeah, he moved his system files to a different folder. So when they encrypted the C drive, like they encrypt or they didn't when they I think they excluded the ones that the folders that would allow the server to start up. When they encrypted the rest of the server and the system files were in different folders, it actually killed the server itself. So they couldn't actually ransom anything because they just went. And so Go See the Dog put on his Twitter, he's like, "Hey, can you exclude .sys files so that if someone puts their system files under a different folder, the computer still starts up." So um, that was an interesting. That's a hey, we're gonna give the the attackers kind of shot themselves in the foot with this one, along with taking down the server.
You guys are bricking my honeypot. Could you just
Yeah.
tweak your code a little bit so it's a little kinder?
Yeah. So this is again why you want good backups. And then of course, crypto miners got in on this. And I mean, I don't know if people are following into the Dogecoin stuff, but apparently that's some hotness right now. I'm actually thinking of Adam. You were on mute if you were talking there. I was actually asked today. I was actually asked by someone in marketing today. She said her son um, got into Dogecoin and it's just kind of gone bonkers, and he's trying to figure out now how to secure it. And I'm like, that's not something I've never had to deal with because I never got in on this stuff. But so crypto miners are a big thing right now with Dogecoin and Bitcoin. So people are installing that stuff all over the place, and why not on the Microsoft Exchange server? It's got some beefy resources.
More to the point, someone else's Exchange server that you're not paying for the CPU time on.
Right. So the state government approved a $650 million increase in security spending. 150 million of that, and we're going to get another rant time going, is going to Microsoft so that the state government has proper logging for their Microsoft Exchange and everything else. So for anyone that hasn't had to deal with Microsoft Exchange or Office or Microsoft in general, their new licensing model has pretty much made security is normally a red line because we it's really hard for us to show value, so it's usually a lot of sunk cost into actually protecting the company. Well, Microsoft has made it so that if you want your actual logging, you have to go to a higher tier. And so this is what the state government is having to do to get the proper logging for these kind of incidents, is pay an extra $150 million.
Yeah, what state is that? You said the state government.
Yeah, I want to say it's probably the federal. I think that's the federal government. I don't know why I said. I may have interjected the state government, but I think this is like the federal government.
No personal bias there.
Yeah. Oh, great. Microsoft just, I wonder what that looks like. My PowerPoint just crashed.
So yeah,
You're using unauthorized software on a MacBook. You're using Microsoft PowerPoint.
No, Microsoft heard me talking bad about them and said, "Shut this fool down."
Well, and you're using Mozilla Firefox. You need to be using
My ecosystem
MacBook,
is
whatever Present or whatever dumb crap they call it, and Safari.
Tim,
no,
in this
that's
modern
worse.
era of the Microsoft COVID vaccine, all of us are potentially listening devices.
That was the Bill Gates vaccine.
Can you see my MAC address?
It raises up like a allergy welt.
Right.
Oh wow, this presentation might just be done. I'm not kidding. It's like
No more
I went to
slides.
go share it. I went to go share it, and it just went, no,
No.
this is not happening right now.
Well, we're gonna
No,
wing
no.
it.
We're doing it. Fuck it. We're doing it live. All right. I'm actually restarting PowerPoint instead of letting it recover. So.
Oh, good. Have you tried turning it off and on again?
That's what I'm doing.
That's a MacBook.
So I mean, to that point, so for people frustrated with Microsoft licensing, if the government starts getting involved, and there are some politicians that have gone, wait a minute, for a Microsoft Exchange vulnerability that has put our organization at risk, you're going to charge us $150 to get where we need to be from a security standpoint. That's a little. Let's have some conversations here, Microsoft. So.
Yeah, ultimately getting into the logging tier in their space. I mean, we would have to, in order. So we try and do central logging, and we've been working to try and get those logs into our central logging, and it's just never going to happen because you have to license it in such a stupid way to try and get those logs. I mean, that in and of itself is a reason you might want to run an on-prem Exchange server. Is because you would have control of those logs.
You
and
talking
you
about
would
Office
have visibility
365?
to it. Yeah.
There's an API. You can send it to a SIM.
Well, then I've been lied to.
Excuse me. I'm thinking about Defender, not Exchange. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say either that, or because we at one point were getting the logs for certain things, and then all of a sudden Microsoft's gotten into this habit of they just change shit, and they're just like whatever.
True. They changed it constantly, and so
right, and they did that with logging.
The DevOps wonderful universe that we live in. Everything's under constant development all the time.
Everything is beta,
including right. Everything's in beta, including your production Exchange server.
Right.
Okay, now I can't share my screen. You must grant permission in order to screen share. Fucking shit, man. All right, I think we're at the point.
Should I put up the intermission slide? Cue the music, Johnny.
I should leave the meeting. Come back.
By the way, Sandra, my failed taco didn't spawn more tacos. It spawned nachos, which can be argued are better.
That's a good way to. I mean, that's a good transition, I guess. Metamorphosis, if you will.
All right, I'm gonna leave this, and I'm gonna join on Chrome.
Well, we're never letting him back in.
I'd say that every time Tim's slide fails, we take a drink, but I don't want anyone to die of alcohol poisoning.
Yeah, that might be dangerous.
Yeah, ColaSEC drinking games are not required.
Corey, Corey, do you want to insert your disclaimer?
No, I think I kind of like this one. I think
this premise or ColaSEC promotes alcoholism.
ColaSEC may or may not disclose.
Hold on. It doesn't promote; it causes.
Yes.
It does not promote death from via alcohol. Does that cover us?
We do not promote or unpromote.
Condone. All right, I think slides are back up. So okay, let's get this baby rolling. Another fun thing that's come out. Another thing that's come out of this is Brian Krebs is not attacking you. Someone registered Krebs.top, so the top level domain .top, which had been found to compromise 21,000 servers. They put a backdoor. They backdoored. They put a backdoor in /OWA/auth/babydraco.aspx. So essentially, yeah, that someone registered Brian Craig's.top as a URL and then compromised 21,000 servers. So he's like, for people that don't know Brian Krebs, he like the criminal underground in the online security space does not like him. So any opportunity they get a chance to troll him, they troll him.
He's pissed them off a few times.
I love
for
it.
sure.
Yes. Yeah. So definitely check out Craig. You do not want Brian Krebs as your IDS either, by the way. Ubiquity is finding that out. The response. So remediation. What you should do: local exchange servers, patch, determine if you've been compromised. Look for any and remove. Look for and remove any backdoors. Security. This was a. I think this was a good. Like one of the things to take away from this is that I feel like the security community came together and kind of like there was a positive that came out of this. There was a lot of tools released on GitHub to scan for stuff.
Well, and Microsoft itself published PowerShell scripts that you could run to help with that, both to do logging and to mitigate a lot of the issues.
There's a site which I'll go into for that, but I first want to talk about this because this was something that Adam brought up in our text prior to this. The FBI took an initiative to remove the early shell. Now, they didn't patch, they just went and removed the first shell that was put on by Chinese on my internet facing exchange servers. This is I think a big topic that's going to go forward because this is government essentially touching corporate hardware, online hardware, right? And typically you don't want your government touching stuff, right? There's a positive to this is that yes, they were trying to help with the cleanup along with everybody else, but then if you're a corporation, you now have to go, wait a minute, the government's just going to come into I think I hope someone here like read that and understood it better than I did, but essentially like they didn't wait for warrants. They just like got some sort of political sign off saying go do this, and then they went and did it.
They got a court order from some federal judge to go and deploy, essentially use the backdoor that had been installed to remove that backdoor. And it wasn't like a blanket across the board. If they found a backdoor, they could remove it. They had one particular one in mind, and they went and removed it from some targets. But they were explicit about the fact that they removed it from targets without contacting the administrators of those systems. They said they would make a best effort if they could identify the owners of those servers to reach out and notify them that they had been compromised.
Yeah, having tried to reach out to organizations and tell them that you're scanning and attacking us and having no contact information available except for maybe an online form that goes to somebody in marketing. I can't see that as that big of an issue because I know how bad it is to try and get in touch with organizations.
Yeah, and that bothers me. The piece that bothers me the most about this is the unilateral decision to just remove it without having any sort of insight into the organizations that were compromised, why those servers have that shell installed. I mean, those things could have been out there for research purposes. They don't know. They don't give a shit. They're just gonna go and fix them.
But isn't that similar to what was the guy that blocked he registered the domain we were talking about earlier, Matthew, Michael, whatever his name?
But
it's no different.
Here's my argument with that. It's one thing if a private citizen decides to go out and do something on behalf of the entire internet. That's one asshole. It's quite another when the federal government deems itself
and the
having the authority to just go and do.
Is it though?
But it's just a bunch of people like us.
No, it's a non-registered domain that the traffic was going through. He did not touch anybody else's hardware as a security researcher. He registered a domain that the ransomware was going through.
Let's not pick on Hutchinson. There have been cases in the past where white hat hackers have gone out and patched systems.
Yeah, a lot of it were home routers. There were issues in home routers that people would
if they were caught, they could have been prosecuted for doing that. Even though they were trying to help, they would have been prosecuted because they didn't That's the thing that we tell our pen testers: do not test anything that you do not have permission to go do. And in this case, this is almost a similar thing, as that the government is touching, private.
Ostensibly, the government now has permission to do that.
It sets a bad precedent, and I think that's
Yeah.
what people are concerned about, right?
True.
It's blurring a line that I was much more comfortable with when it was just individuals at home doing hacktivist things. When the government starts doing hacktivist things, I get nervous.
Well, and they're also doing it anonymously, right? But if they were found
Right.
out, they could be in trouble. But how come the government can then just go do the same thing?
The other thing is the law is still running to
There-
catch up here, and
There are many things that private citizens can't do that government agencies can do.
that's
I
true.
mean, I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm certainly not taking a pro-government kind of stance, but I'm just saying that I'm not entirely certain that it's
but that
doesn't
should be
have
something.
precedent in the public space.
Well, and you're talking like small, medium businesses, right? That don't have an IT staff, let alone a security staff to like call out this stuff. I think at that point, if the government wants to help, they start up a program going, if there's an incident, we will come. But see, that's opens a whole nother thing for the government, right? It's like, where do they stop? So they did it for this. What's the next thing they're going to go start? And that's a whole nother thing in itself. Like, what determines them going in and helping to try to clean up stuff?
Right, and that's what I was trying to allude to with the law running to catch up here. Is this is legally a gray area, and I could easily see arguments where the federal government's just violated CISA, or I'm sorry, the
Computer Fraud and Abuse Act.
Computer Fraud
Yeah.
and Abuse Act, right? And I don't know. It's a murky area, and I don't like the fact that it got decided by the DOJ and one judge, and we need to do better.
But that's the point too,
We
right?
won't for a
Yeah, that's
decade.
right, and that's the point too, is that there's supposed to be all these checks and balances, so that there's not an abuse of power for that kind of stuff. And I think it's just precedent. Like that's what I'm saying. It's like it's a good thing again for the small medium businesses that are just gonna. But it also, here's the other thing too. It's like, how much did they really get out of this? Because they're talking about removing the early shell. There could be other shells on there that are not getting removed still. Like, and they didn't patch either, so you can use the same vulnerabilities to go back in and reinstall that. I can automate that.
There are absolutely flaws within what they did and how they did it, and perhaps it was ill-advised because it didn't actually make a difference at the end of the day because it left the vulnerability open.
Right.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think
that's
Yeah, but
certainly.
boy, howdy, from a legal precedent standpoint, the government coming in and installing software without asking that's a whole different line. So I'm glad.
And how do we know we did? How do we know they didn't leave something in there? They left their own
yeah.
back door,
Well,
right?
I mean-
and I'm playing. That's tinfoil hat, Tim. Right?
Please don't put that tinfoil hat on me. I don't need that kind of paranoia.
At least it was the Justice Department and not the NSA. Hopefully,
The NSA doesn't have a news article about it.
but
it didn't get leaked.
Right.
The NSA, that is international. Like, that's their jurisdiction. It's the FBI is considered domestic, right? And that's where,
And you think Eternal Blue wasn't domestic?
Sure. Yeah, no, I get that. But what I'm saying is that, like, the NSA, their focus is like internationally. The FBI, if they're getting some of these precedents, their focus is domestic, and that just, this is their focus. This is, what they do.
Yes. Anyway, we digress. Next
Yes,
slide.
we do. But that's what I knew we'd have a little bit of a debate, and I think it's it's an interesting conversation. I think there's going to be more of that to come.
And there should be a lot of conversation about it. There should be a lot of serious conversation about it.
That's what makes this country great, though. Local exchange. So this is a site that you can use to check for compromise. Essentially, you You can determine if you're compromised, and then look and remove, whatever's in there if you're in there. Because there were certain domains that were used, I believe, and at this point I'm confusing SolarWinds and Exchange a little bit, but
Will they
this
patch
does.
it for me?
No, they won't. You can
Okay.
patch your own shit.
Well.
No, the FBI. No, sorry, the FBI won't do that. Never mind. You have to pay Microsoft the extra money to have the FBI come in, remove the backdoor, and patch it for you.
I really like that domain.
That's the new model. So as of March 22nd, 92% of all exchange servers have been patched. So that's what I was also saying was some of the good that came out of this is that there was a pretty good response. And yes, there's as you can see that there's about 30,000 left, but like a lot of work and effort was put in, and tools were provided to the community to try and get a lot of this stuff taken care of.
Yeah, Microsoft. I'll give them credit. They worked very hard to respond to all of that. I'm not sure if you're going to talk about the April patches that came out last Tuesday, but
What you mean? There's an ongoing issue?
yeah. So there was, I think, 2 or 3 critical, 9.8 on the CVSS scale that came out a week ago on Patch Tuesday for April for Exchange, and within days we saw people trying to exploit, and we heard 0 from Microsoft. So it's funny how the response is, with this, and I don't know on the, maybe this wasn't a shell thing, maybe this was just standard remote code execution. I don't know. But it was funny that the fact that everybody exploded like, oh my god, we have to fix this in March, and then in April everybody's on vacation.
Yeah, I don't know. This I'm not going into that rant. What I will say is that once something like this hits the news, there's blood in the water, right? This is the SolarWinds was the same way. There was more patches with SolarWinds. I think like someone else was telling me that SolarWinds recently had a new set of patches, right? So once someone finds a vulnerability in it, everybody starts looking at it. Private companies, security researchers, everybody's trying to get in on this and trying to take advantage of it. So after like a month later, Microsoft Exchange is going to be one of the most secure things on the internet.
Yeah, just like
So yeah,
I mean that's when Apple a couple years ago when the government confiscated some guy's iPhone. It was big in the news. The bomber, whatever he was, I forget. So I'm definitely gonna misquote it. The bad guy, they had confiscated his iPhone, and they were like, we need someone to hack into it, and Celebrite was involved, and this, that, and the other, and they're like, Apple's like, no, you can't backdoor our stuff, and then so here comes everyone and their brother, and somebody hacked it, and now they can.
Yeah, it turned out that was a small firm out of Australia that did that.
Really?
Yeah.
That was Israel,
there was an article run. I'd have to look for it. I saw it last week, maybe even this week, talking about that, and that it literally was like this teeny tiny security firm in Australia that had the technology to do it.
Nice.
So
yep.
It's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, I didn't have those patches out, so good call out, David. So now the really interesting thing, we're going to go through this timeline. February 2nd, Velocity warns Microsoft about an active attack. Wait, hold on. Oh, what the heck happened? Sorry. I swore I fixed these slides. Let me stop presenting here for a second. Let me see if it's on the other side of slides.
You're fired.
I don't know what happened, but like so some of the bigger slides I like to have 2 slides. They're duplicates, so you don't see me change them, but the notes change. And very clearly,
fancy.
Yeah, all my slides are. And I saw that. Well, I saw it too, and I fixed it, but apparently, Microsoft and Macs don't work together very well. There it is. I fixed it in one set of slides. Not
Nice,
the
Adam.
other. Yeah,
We
Adam's
just talked
baby.
about doing ColaSEC bingo, so
That's
it
true.
might have to happen.
Every time. Oh, yes, I apologize for that. That's something I got to fix for tomorrow.
I'm blaming you for the damage to my liver.
Go nuts, dude. Go nuts. I approve of this message. All right, that's fixed. See, slight intermission. Go grab a drink.
Too late.
Too late. Well,
Like
it
I
is
said,
working better
Adam
with
doesn't have
Chrome,
to go
right?
too far.
All right, let's start back. Let's back it up even more. October 2020, DevCore begins research on Microsoft Exchange. December 10th, Dev discovers the initial vulnerability named proxy logon. December 28th, demonstrates vulnerability can do an authentication bypass. December 30th, discovers second post-authentication file write bug that can be chained with first to gain privilege access. January 3rd, the attacks are in the wild. DevCore alerts Microsoft of its findings on January 5th. Orange to Sai actually tweets about it. January 6th, Velocity spots attacks that use unknown vulnerabilities in Exchange. DevCore reports Microsoft had reproduced the problems and verified their findings, right? DevCore snags proxylogon.com, a domain now used to explain its vulnerability discovery. Dubex notes active exploitation of Microsoft Exchange, the worker process. Dubex alerts Microsoft about attacks on a new Exchange flaw. And then January 29th, Trend Micro publishes a blog post about Chopper, a web shell being dropped via Exchange flaws. Now I'm going to switch slides. You shouldn't see any difference. February 2nd, Velocity warns Microsoft about active attacks on previously unknown Exchange vulnerabilities. February 8th, Microsoft tells Dubex it has escalated its report internally. February 18th, Microsoft confirms with DevCore a target date of March 9th. So they're planning to release the Exchange vulnerabilities on Patch Tuesday, the next month. February 26th to 27th, targeted exploitation gradually turns into a global mass scan. Attackers start rapidly dropping vulnerable backdoors on vulnerable servers. February 28th notes that one of the web shell passwords is orange. March 2nd, a week earlier than previously planned, Microsoft released their 4.0-day patches. March 5th, Krebs on Security breaks the news that at least 30,000 organizations in the US and hundreds of thousands worldwide now have backdoors installed. March 5th, Wired confirms that the reported number of victims confirms the reported number of victims. White House expresses concerns over the size of the attack. Former CISA head Chris Krebs tweets the real victim numbers dwarf what has been reported publicly. That's where I said the 30,000 was the initial. I've heard hundreds of thousands. CISA says it's aware of widespread domestic and international exploitation of Microsoft Exchange server. March 7th to present, security experts continue to effort to notify victims, coordinate remediation, and remain vigilant for stage 2 attacks. So what that means is there might be stuff hidden in Microsoft Exchange servers that we don't know about. And we might find out about it again. So this is just another SolarWinds story, essentially. So I'm going to pause there. Was there any questions about, because I kind of ran through that timeline. Didn't cover the slide specifically, but there was a lot more like on Brian Krebs from beginning to end. The October date is interesting, and we'll get into we'll dive into some of these questions remain from the whole timeline, but I want to ask, just level set with everybody, see if they have any questions on that. No. Okay.
My chief question is why your timeline doesn't include the best tweet that Microsoft has ever released.
Oh yeah, which one was that one? I think
on March 9th, Microsoft, the official Microsoft Twitter account, unmutes Mike, Thanks, everyone. Mutes mic, signs off, lays on the floor.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm sure the people had that.
That honestly, I could relate because at the time, it's nothing but incoming incident alerts from every threat feed we have.
Yep. So the question, and I hope you guys picked it up there, with the kind of the acceleration of discovery of vulnerability, Microsoft reporting to, holy crap, there's a ton of people just like actively exploiting this in the wild. Um, so the question is, how did so many groups have a working exploit for vulnerabilities so quickly, right? And this was undisclosed, like this was disclosed to Microsoft, but the question there's multiple questions about how so many groups got it. So the groups credited by ESET as having the vulnerability or having the exploit for the vulnerability. Exploit and vulnerability are two different things. Exploit is what actually takes advantage of the vulnerability. There's the group Hafnium. This is the Chinese cyber, the intelligence gathering nation state sponsored attackers. You've got Tick, aka Bronze Butler, and Red Bald Knight. I love these names, by the way. That's why I'm going through them. You've got Lucky Mouse, which is also referred to as APT 27, and Emissary Panda. Calypso, with ties to XPath, WebSick, Winity, aka APT 41, and Barium. And then 4 other groups started after the patch was released, right? So the question, it's uncommon to see so many with exploit, with an exploit from these vulnerabilities. Maybe you have 2 different security researchers that come with the exploit at the same time. That happens.
So what are you getting at here?
Well, the speculation is that Hafnium shared the exploit. This exploit was being sold, and then the price dropped after it started. After you start patching, the price starts dropping on these. So we were talking about the Selenium Apple Australian company that came through to kind of crack the phone. Those are like, I think Apple's put out like $1 million bug bounties for that kind of stuff, right? So it's unknown stuff that you can exploit. It gets up there in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, several hundreds of thousands of dollars. After it becomes known and there's a patch out for it, that price drops. It's the same thing with credit cards. Credit cards that aren't known to be compromised or breached have a higher value than the ones that are. They drop from what, like maybe $10 a card to like 5 cents a card. I think the price. Don't quote me on the price, but essentially, I'm just showing that there's a drop in once unknown versus known.
Right.
Tim, I'm looking right here at my black market price index, and those numbers are just all wrong, sir.
I'm just saying. But that I think that's one of the remaining questions from these, right? Is how did so many? Because that's what essentially. What's other interesting fact about it is that, like, you think about it, you don't want other criminal organizations ransomwaring your Microsoft Exchange boxes that you've dropped a web shell on. So you might start going in and start cleaning up those other web shells for them, right? Trying to get rid of it. And we've seen that before with criminal organizations.
Cough, cough, FBI.
Are you saying the federal government is cleaning up their own mess?
I know. This is Microsoft's mess, so they'd be cleaning up Microsoft's mess. No, I'm not saying I'm not saying the FBI, but I'm just saying like ransomware gangs have gotten into like little battles where they start removing each other's web shells. That's hit the news.
I'm still getting the conspiracy.
Yeah.
What if the NSA leaked whatever the FireEye thing? They leaked a thing that made this a thing, and then the FBI was like, "Hey, we're gonna clean that up," and then they accidentally opened a shell, and then China got it. I mean, the conspiracies are endless here.
Yep. No, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We can put our tinfoil hats on.
Accidentally take down a counterterrorism thing in the last few weeks.
I did see that in the news. Oh yeah, that was the news section, man.
Whoops.
Yep.
Missed it.
Too late.
Well, was it what I thought it? I read it was that they actually that was their job, was to like go after stuff, and they shut it down.
Yeah, they burned a counterterrorism ops.
That's
kit,
what it was.
and
They were releasing.
They found malicious kit. It was just counterterrorism malicious kit. So
Right. Yeah, it was the U.S.'s malicious kit, and yeah. So okay. Well, that's the presentation.